Code Geass R3 was one of the most highly anticipated anime films ever, with fans waiting more than 11 years for the return of Lelouch, even if it was as a vegetable for most of the film. Everyone was expecting a third season to come out after all the hype they built with the 3 recap films, but when they announced that it was going to be a non-canon film, was anyone really disappointed? Yes. I'd say basically everyone was disappointed. Everyone felt a bit scammed that we hadn't been told sooner, even though they obviously had known the entire time. The film sacrificed some of the show's original credibility to make it more wholesome, and it is wholesome, I can confirm, but it goes against everything that the show built over the original 50 episodes, so people were rightly annoyed. I don't think Sunrise handled the situation very well. They could have told everyone from the beginning what they were planning, and then people wouldn't have had anything to be annoyed about. They just let the hype build up too much, I think, so that when it did come to the time to them revealing what it actually was they were making, it was already too late and everyone was too excited for the third season that wasn't happening. On the other hand, many people didn't want a third season, thinking that it would only be a money grab after the second season ended so perfectly. So either way, whatever they do, people are going to be annoyed. If they make a third season, everyone will think it's just a money grab, and if they don't make a third season, everyone's going to think that they've wasted their time. In this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on the film, a plot analysis, and my theories about why Shirley was brought back from the dead. So if you're going to enjoy, please like and subscribe. Really helps us out. We're on 24 subscribers, so you know, every little helps. Enjoy! So, the much awaited Code Geass film, Lelouch of the Resurrection. As a long-time fan of the show, I was as hyped as anyone when a new project was announced by Sunrise with the entire original cast returning. We all truly believed. But it wasn't season 3, which in retrospect I'm okay with. Code Geass is Sunrise Animation's crowning jewel, with the show having a huge fanbase both in Japan and the rest of the world. The film is a result of relentless pestering by these fans and what happens when a company wants more money. The film starts off with the original Black Knights celebrating the opening of Tamaki's bar, showing Ogi and Violetta's baby, which is undeniably wholesome, which kind of sums up most of this film. There's a lot of scenes that in the grand scale of things don't actually mean anything and only serve as closure on a particular plotline. In the first few minutes, Nunnally is kidnapped by some of the most classical villains you'll ever see in an anime, and that is saying something. This guy's only desire seems to be becoming the greatest warrior in the world, to protect his sister and sate his own lust for power. Cool. So that's the premise for the film setup. Lelouch must again save his sister and restore the peace he ironically died for in R2. In the next scene we see Lelouch with C2, where we find out that he inherited Code when killing his father, making him an immortal. However, as he used Geass after acquiring a Code, his conscience was lost to C's world, which may or may not go against the original premise for having a Code where you could no longer use your Geass power, but a few plot holes never hurt anyone. As Lelouch no longer possesses a conscience, he's effectively a vegetable. Lelouch destroyed C's world when he killed God.
God for all of humanity itself! Regardless, what I want is tomorrow!
So the only way C2 can access it and reclaim Lelouch's soul is to open a gate, one of which is beneath a prison, unfortunately under terrorist control. After a quick reunion between Lelouch and Callan, as well as the run-in with this yaoi dating sim looking guy, it's decided that they should get Lelouch back to being Lelouch. Suzaku also got captured, but let's be honest, nobody cared about him in the show and the film isn't any different. I lost count of how many times he betrayed someone in the original. He's got some 50 Shades of Grey thing going on in this dungeon, so let's leave him to that and go back to the actual plot. The gang sneak into the prison after disguising themselves with a food truck, with the ingenious brand title Food. They find the Aramu Gate and enter the fragmented remains of C's world. They find Charlie and Marianne, who are trapped in between the world of the living and the paradise they envisioned when using the Sword of Akasha in the original show. Anyway, Lelouch gets his soul back, and in a callback to the first episode, he commands all of the terrorists to kill themselves. Which is still as dodgy as it was in 2006. Sunrise knew the fans wanted to see this sort of thing, knew Code Geass content, but still content that reminded them, or even mirrored in this case, what they originally fell in love with. The next segment of the film follows Lelouch reconnecting with his friends, and seeing their surprise at him not being, Because, let's be honest, you would be surprised if your comrade turned friend turned dictator, who was ceremoniously slaughtered in broad daylight, just rolled up with no explanation. He makes it clear that he isn't actually alive, only passing through this realm, so in a way he's surpassed the world of the living, but is still Nunnally's guardian watching over her. Throughout this film, he shows why he is anime's favourite mastermind, outsmarting opponents in ways that only Code Geass could pull off as plausible. Shamna, the princess and visionary of the terrorists who kidnapped Nunnally, possesses a Geass, which allows her to go back in time 8 hours every time she dies. So effectively, if something happens in a way she doesn't like, she just kills herself and redoes it. Over the years, she has become bored of this power, now seeing it as a burden more than a gift, knowing how many people she could have saved but chose not to. We learn that she wants to be the first human in the remade world Charles and Marianne envisioned for humanity, before Lelouch effectively killed God and broke the Ragnarok connection, as the world they envisioned would have no change and would be as bland and meaningless as being dead. You can see that Shamna started out with good intentions to help her people, as she continuously tries to convince herself, but was corrupted by her own greed and entitlement to ascend to the paradise she imagines the other world to be. I mean, it's a cool enough background story, but quite average for an anime villain. Basically, it was good, got corrupted by X or Y. Lelouch has to infiltrate her kingdom in order to save Nunnally, but whenever he tries, she'll just kill herself and...
It's rewind time.
He eventually overcomes her by finding out what her Geass is through trial and error, until he can use his power on her to make her fall into a coma for the next 8 hours and then killing her. So when she goes back in time, she's asleep and unable to do anything. Shamna had captured Nunnally as a way to connecting to C's world, as Nunnally is a daughter of Charles. As a result of this, Nunnally is trapped in the limbo that is now C's world, and Lelouch must go in and save her, reuniting them and allowing her to tell him all the things she couldn't due to his untimely death. In an interview, the creator of Code Geass said that the film doesn't have to be canon if you don't want it to be, which is the thing I was most annoyed about. If you're going to build all this hype around one of anime's favourite protagonists being brought back from the dead, you can't then go back on it and say it may or may not actually be what happened. It's the equivalent of a character waking up in a film and the entire thing was just a dream. You feel robbed. Before we get into the ending of the film and what that means for the future of the franchise, let's talk a bit about Shirley. She was arguably the main love interest for Lelouch in the series, and her death marks an important moment in the show, allowing Lelouch to realise the consequences of what he was doing and give him a much needed reality check into the way he was handling his double life as a student and terrorist. Yet in the recap films, her death was cut out, bringing her back for the sequel. This would be understandable if she had some relevance to the plot, but apart from a phone call with C2 at the beginning of the film, she isn't in it at all. That's not an over-exaggeration, she doesn't even meet Lelouch in the film. The only conceivable reason of undoing her very well developed character would be that she has more relevance in the sequel of the sequel. While nothing is 100% confirmed, I fully believe that there will be at least one more installation for Code Geass, otherwise why bring her back at all? They didn't bring back Rolo or Princess Maska or anyone else from the plethora of characters they killed off, so surely it has to have some significance in the long run, right? If this is just complete nonsense, please do correct me, but as far as I know, this seems like the most logical explanation. He acknowledges that he can't go back to his old life, as most people still see him as an evil dictator. He changes his name to L2, obviously in homage to V2 and C2, the other two Geass masters. Shamna, who now resides in the void of C's world, tells C2 that she wishes to stay there and wait for her brother, who dies shortly after at the hands of Suzaku. The Geass fragments that fall from the sky can be seen to represent the tears of Shamna, mourning the death of her brother, as well as a result of her power being dispersed on her death. The final shot is of C2 and L2 vowing to collect the fragments from around the world. Maybe Lelouch loves C2, or maybe he just really doesn't want to live with Nunnally. But either way, the ending definitely doesn't undo the beauty of the original, contrary to what people had worried. In one final bonus scene, we see Lelouch and C2 stood atop a pile of bodies, saying that only they have the authority to cleanse the world of people unworthy of Geass and bestow it upon those worthy and willing to protect the world, just as he did. This may mean that Lelouch has ascended to Geass Master and can now gift his Geass to people as C2 did to him, or something else. Only time, and almost definitely a sequel, will tell. My final thoughts on this film are that whilst it answered a lot of questions people had, it also opened up a whole new side to Code Geass that I'm sure we will see explored in the future. Maybe this time we won't have to wait over a decade, who knows? Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Yeah. Bye.